Hey, what's up guys? I figured I'd start maybe this few seconds early. I know the countdown wasn't quite done yet, and I know you're really disappointed. This is a good way for me to check sound, make sure everything is working okay, and you guys are already in the chat. Everything sounds like it's pretty good, so hopefully you guys had a awesome Thanksgiving, and we're coming to you live, like Boogie says, if you ever watched his videos live, using the power of the internet. So already the chat's going, so it seems like there's lots of people in, 13 people watching right now, which is pretty cool to start with. So yeah, we do have some ground dwellers in the chat, but this is our pretty awesome, I think, way to meet. We meet kind of every other Wednesday around this time, around about 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and we talk about gear a lot of times. We talk about some questions that I've gotten in my 2 previous videos from the week, as well as any questions that you guys have live. So it's a pretty good place for everyone to kind of hang out, talk about all things backpacking. It looks like someone got slammed with a review. Let's see. So should I show this? Everyone's seeing it already. Yeah, I'm not sure what Arcana. Man, I don't know what you're saying in there, but keep it clean, everyone. So not everyone hangs, but we do have some ground dwellers in here. Thanks, Steve. Yes, the poop trial reviews are definitely what everyone keeps coming back for. Speaking of that, that was one of my questions, because of course, once I talked about the backpacking gifts that I recommended everyone get, everyone was asking about poop trowels and surprised that a poop trowel wasn't on there, and it was not. But of course, the Chi Whiz is still, I got this question recently, but the Chi Whiz is still the backpacking trowel that I recommend. Super lightweight, especially the Big Dig version, and it's made of titanium, super thin, works in all kinds of areas. I'd say the runner-up right now is the Vargo Dig tool. The thing that concerns me about the Dig tool, and you like how I transitioned into being very serious about these poop trial reviews already. The Vargo Dig tool, the concern I have with it is the serrated edge. And so I usually hang my backpacking trowel outside of my backpack, and I'm always worried about it kind of jamming up against kind of an ultralight fabric or my tarp or a rain jacket and ending up putting a hole in it. It never has, but it still makes me a little leery of hanging around with it. Let's see. Question: top 3 meals while backpacking. Hey, Scott. The ramen bomb, for sure, and multiple variations of the ramen bomb is one of the best DIY, I think, backpacking meals. And I'm assuming Wakis 85, that's what you're asking about, is kind of homemade meals. The ramen bomb is definitely number 1. Number 2 for me is anything with a tortilla. So be it like salmon is a big meal for me. Salmon and tortilla wraps is a big one. And then snacky stuff, I tend to do a lot of like dried fruit now, nuts, those kind of things, in kind of one big kind of my own type of trail mix. And so that kind of takes care of most of my meals. Of course, now you guys know I'm a Mountain House ambassador, and I do use a lot of Mountain House meals. Beef stroganoff, by far and away, is my favorite. I think lasagna with meat sauce is a close runner-up. So Yep, Felice Outdoors is mentioning salami and cheese. That's another good one. And that's one thing I actually started with is dried meats. So like pepperoni works really well. Pepperoni and cheese, as well as summer sausage is just awesome because it usually can last longer. It doesn't need to be refrigerated. But after about 2 days, I think people have gone further than 2 days with like summer sausage and those kind of things. But I tend to stay away from that just because I'm afraid of getting sick. I think people do it, but I just feel like I'm afraid of getting ill. Hey, from outside of Philadelphia. Yeah, Valise is talking about the Deuce of Spades. Speaking of the Deuce of Spades, because we talked about backpacking trowels, I should be getting the new version that's coming up here soon. I think he's releasing it in 2018. So I think it's a prototype. Maybe get a couple of rough versions and see what he's done differently. Maybe it's titanium. Who knows? I don't know. It's Mike from Tent Lab who is producing these Deuce of Spades trowels, and so I'm curious to see what he's done. Ramen bomb is a great meal, and so many variations you can use. Instead of, I use Spam in my ramen bombs, but you can use salmon, you can use tuna, you can just endless variations, different flavors of ramen. You just, the same concept can apply to lots of different types of meals. Steve is talking about he's had trouble with gathered end hammocks. I've had the Chameleon and a few others. Wow, you started off really good then. Chameleon and a few others. Mostly transitioned to bridge hammocks. I have not slept in a bridge hammock, but I know two of the big popular ones that I tend to see, and someone in the chat probably has, is the Clark Jungle Hammock, as well as the Ridge Runner from Warbonnet is pretty popular as well. I don't have anything against it. I guess gathered end hammocks have always done it for me, so I've never felt the need to try a bridge hammock. The thing you have to worry about with bridge hammocks, they just tend to be heavier, it's just how it is. But for people who have trouble with sleeping in a gathered end and that diagonal lay and kind of getting it just right, I think a bridge hammock is a good option. It just depends what you get. But the two popular ones, I think, are the Clark Jungle Hammock and the Warbonnet Ridge Runner. Best use gear, Jay is asking. Use Gear Trade or any other outlet or just new stuff? I tried using Gear Trade for some selling, buying some stuff. I think the best place to buy used gear are Facebook groups. As long as someone has a good reputation. I use Backpacking Gear Flea Market, as well as there's a Hammock Hangers Flea Market. I think something like that if you search for it. There's also Barefoot's Trading Post or something like that on Facebook. Those are three really good options if you're looking for used gear. I post stuff in there occasionally to sell, but I also buy stuff from there. I think that's a really good place to check out. As well as online forums. So for example, hammock forums, if you're looking for, let's say, a used underquilt. Sometimes you'll have some really good deals on high quality cottage industry gear for a fraction of the cost. Well, let me not say a fraction of the cost, for a pretty steep discount if you go through those forums, or Craigslist sometimes is hit or miss, but I like the Facebook groups. The Facebook groups I think is where it's really at. You can't get any better than that, and they're stuff posted constantly, and a lot of people actually do, they're kind of resellers, and so if you don't live near an REI, some people will actually probably buy from REI or some outdoor retailers and probably resell on there. So sometimes you can get new stuff with tags for significantly cheaper. Of course they're making a profit, but to me, I don't care as long as I get it cheaper than the end result, just general retail. Hey, the weekend hike, Adam, how's it going? Okay. Salmon, when I mentioned salmon, is it cans? No, I talk about the little, not the kind of like aluminum foil packets, and that works really well for me. Just different flavors of tuna. They're called Tuna Creations. I know Starkist makes it, as well as Walmart carries it. The problem with those is they tend to be a little more expensive. And so you're talking sometimes, I get them on sale for like 80 cents a packet, but $1 a packet is not unusual, I believe. Valise is talking about hard salami and sharp cheddar for 4 to 5 days. Yeah, in cool weather, definitely possible. I think people have talked about that a lot. Uncle Ben rice. Ooh, that sounds really good. Scott Taylor's talking about a backpacking meal: salami on a tortilla with Uncle Ben rice, pinto and rice, or red bean and rice, mashed potatoes. I hope I like it. You've never tried it, but that actually sounds just like a general burrito, so that sounds like it'd be good. Oh, Syndex. Question: I live, hike, and train close to sea level, and will be running a half marathon in the Tetons in June. Any tips on dealing with the 6,000 foot altitude difference? Yeah, if you check out my most recent video on altitude, that's where I kind of outline a lot of the tips and tricks that I used on my most recent trip. But Arcana mentioned it right away. The best thing to do is acclimate. If you can't acclimate, ibuprofen actually has been proven to be clinically effective at reducing symptoms of altitude sickness, which is pretty impressive. In that video, I kind of outline, I don't want to tell you wrong, but every 4 to 6 hours, you take about 600 milligrams of ibuprofen. Once again, I'm not a physician or anything like that. Follow up with your own doctor, do your own research. But in that video, I included a link from the author of this study that kind of tested the effectiveness of ibuprofen and compared it to just different control groups. And I've seen other research out there about like acetaminophen, which doesn't work as well or hasn't been as effective. Another big one, you sometimes will see those natural things out there people will use. I haven't seen anything officially proving that as being effective. Same thing with ginkgo. A lot of people go by that. I still haven't seen anything conclusive to suggest that works. So right now, ibuprofen is relatively safe, cheap, easy to get. And so if you're going to have a sudden swing like that and maybe you don't have any time to acclimate, I would go ahead and go with ibuprofen. A lot of people on the trail that I've saw out west, that's what they tend to use, especially when they're coming from, like me, at sea level or lower sometimes, below sea level. Steve is talking about bridge hammocks again. It was a lot of other stuff to carry up, poles, larger tarp. Yep, those things are one of the drawbacks of those bridge hammocks. It just tends to increase your overall kit, and so that's something to consider as well. Is that you maybe, I guess it's one of those balancing acts. If you want more comfort, which it sounds like you do, Steve, I don't think a bridge hammock it would hurt to try at all. Because for me, hammock camping, and I've mentioned this before, is all about the comfort. That's the real reason why I hammock camp. It's not to be cool or to go any significantly lighter. It's because I sleep way better in a hammock than I do in my own bed, and I sleep way better in a hammock than I do in a tent. That's just the basic thing it comes down to. Let's see. Weekend hiker. Weekend hikers asking on a typical 3-day, 2-night backpacking trip where it gets down to the 20s, 30s at night, what clothing do you pack? Usually I pack whatever I'm wearing, hiking clothes, of course. So you guys have seen me before. I wear just a nylon pair of pants, a hiking shirt, and then I wear usually a synthetic undershirt. You're talking probably about sleeping clothes, especially Adam. The big thing I carry is, and I didn't used to carry this, 3-day, 2-night, I guess you don't have to, but I'll rotate my pair of clean socks. And so that's what I wear that night. So I wear white socks, or I wear a wool pair if it's going to be really cold that night. I also wear the Under Armour 2.0 leggings, if you will. And that is perfect for the temperatures that you've mentioned, the 20 to 30 degrees at night. And I feel really comfortable in that. And then for my top, I wear a, it's called the brand name I believe is Polar Max. And it's in the description of most of my videos, but it's a very lightweight sleeping shirt. And it's done a nice job being warm, because I was thinking about getting like a silk shirt. And those things tend to be really light. They tend to be more expensive as well. But the Polar Max shirt, tops and bottoms, and I didn't buy the bottom, I used the Under Armour bottom. The Polar Max top, I think, works really well for me. It's a long sleeve, very lightweight, and it keeps me warm in my quilt. And so that way, the quilt traps a lot of the dead air, and it kind of warms me up. And so I don't have a super thick top when I'm sleeping. Now, something to consider is if it gets colder than what you're talking about, 20s to 30s, I sometimes do consider sleeping in my down puffy. But most times what I end up doing is, excuse me, what I end up doing is actually putting a down puffy on top of me in the hammock. I think it does a better job warming me because I'm not compressing the down while I'm sleeping in it. So I know a lot of people will actually sleep in their puffy jacket. Try it for once, actually just laying it on top of you. Even if it's under the quilt, it doesn't get crushed as much, so I think it works better for me. The 4-pack tuna. Yep, the salmon is really good. I think lots of different flavors. My favorite one is barbecue, and I think they're sweet and spicy, and it's not real spicy at all, Virginia. Yep, I like salmon better than tuna. Let's see. Restless Outdoors. I want some math. And now Restless Outdoors, Karate Adam, Karate Josh actually, hey Mark, Karate Josh actually used that mask to help acclimate. He kind of swears by it. He said it worked. The reason why I didn't try that mask idea is that whenever I went to research whether or not it was effective, I kind of found mixed results. It's one of those things where I couldn't say for sure whether or not it helped. So I decided not to try it. That's when I kind of researched and kind of came across ibuprofen. There was also different studies on acetaminophen and ginkgo and all those different things. But even though those companies do say that those masks work, and I have some anecdotal information that they do, I just couldn't find anything that says, yes, for sure, this proves that it works or not. Trainingmask.com. Okay. Yeah, I just did have lots of different options out there. So I don't know if any of you guys got anything cool for Thanksgiving, not for Thanksgiving, for Black Friday sales. But of course, like I was telling you in my previous live streams, there's a bunch of great deals out there. Hammock Gear had a bunch. UGQ had some. War Bonnet, Dutch Wear Gear, all those cottage industry guys. Local Libre, I believe, had lots of good deals out there. And so I don't know what you guys got, if anything. I actually chose not to purchase anything big this time around. The biggest purchase I got was pretty cheap, and you guys are going to laugh. But you see it right here. Let's see. Yep, that blue right there is the Costco quilt. I decided just to pick up 2 of them. They were on sale. Saved a couple bucks compared to the 20 bucks that they usually cost. And if you guys know the Costco down quilt, I think it's one of the best budget backpacking quilts or blankets out there for summer. And so I just don't think it can be beat. So my kids, that's who's going to use those down there. I just got 2 extra. I've been camping with them in the summer months. Oh, sorry, I was camping with them in the summer months, and down to about high 40s, 50s. They seem to be pretty comfortable with that. They didn't have any complaints, and so that worked really well. Something I actually bought recently from Massdrop, and if you guys go to massdrop.com and check out it's called the Pine Down Blanket, and I'm really excited to get this. Of course, there's a long wait. It's $100. This quilt, well, this blanket / quilt is, and what it is, it just, to me, I just wanted to try it out because it has 850 fill power down. It's bigger than the Costco quilt. Of course, it's more expensive. It's taller. It's more of a blanket than a quilt, but it can serve as a quilt in a pinch. And so I think that if we can get the Costco down quilt, which only has like, I'd say, an inch of loft on it, if we can get that down to high 40s, 50s, I truly believe that the Massdrop quilt should be able to get us down even lower than that. I'm going to guess 30s. I'm not certain. That hasn't been tested. No one's tested it yet. But I'm curious how it does, because you guys know the Costco quilt has sewn through baffles. So those are kind of the weak points, and they have tons of cold spots, I think, or they can. That's why it can't get as low as a comparable quilt that doesn't have sewn through baffles. The Pine Down Blanket does have sewn through baffles, but they minimize it. They don't have that checkered pattern. It's long vertical baffles that are sewn through. So I really am curious to see how those end up doing. And so if you have a chance, swing by Massdrop and you can join the drop, pick one up for $99.99 and free shipping. And of course, it doesn't get delivered till May because they're using kind of global supply chain. So they have to source it down, they have to source the materials. Then they purchase all of them at the same time, get them manufactured, get them shipped over here, freight from China probably. But I think it's another great option. So you guys, of course, are going to see a review. I purchased that with my own money. I don't get anything for mentioning Massdrop. There's no link anywhere. But check out massdrop.com. I think it's a really cool site, and they're really pushing and getting their ultralight community lots of good gear. So that's kind of cool. Virginia's talking about the... Oh, okay, let's see. I found the Sierra Designs. Oh, cool. Yeah, REI has some good sales. They still have some good sales. I think I saw also the REI Half Dome 2 was another good option that I saw out there. A little heavy, of course, and I wouldn't really use it for backpacking, but for your base camping, because I think the weight was about 5 pounds, REI Half Dome 2 Plus, I believe it was. And that seemed like a pretty good option. Let's see. But talking about the Wookiee from War Bonnet, that's an awesome underquilt as well. I don't know if that question was for me, Virginia, but I purchased the Costco down quilt online because they had a 2-pack. Hancon questions. A Ronco rotisserie. Set it and forget it. I remember those commercials. Those were the best. Let's see. Hancon. Hancon's in Florida, isn't it? Yeah, see, usually if I was in Florida down this year, I'd be able to do it, but I am not going to Florida this year. But I love to watch the videos. So that's pretty awesome to see. Let's see. I got a question about Thanksgiving deals, poop trial question, which I already answered. The War Bonnet Mini Fly. I know some people were asking if I still use the War Bonnet Mini Fly, and yes, it's been used quite a bit. If you follow my channel, you guys get to see it pretty often. I love that tarp. I think it's the perfect size for what most people need. It just has just enough coverage, and it works really well for my purposes at least. And so if you enjoy it, I consider it to be more a minimalist tarp, but someone who still wants doors and that sort of protection could really use the War Bonnet Mini Fly. So that's another option. And my last video got a lot of attention, mostly for the spork fork. Well, the spoon fork. It's the Human Gear Duo, and the link is in the description. But I think a lot of people were actually not aware of the Human Gear Duo, which surprised me. I feel like they should advertise better because it's probably one of my favorite pieces of gear, and it goes with me on every trip. It's perfect because it's like you guys saw in that last video. I think it's like one of those great stocking stuffer gifts for a backpacker or a hiker, because it's longer than a typical spork or spoon that you usually will get, and it's one of those things that it makes a smaller footprint. And so that's really nice, and that's one of the cool things about it. And you guys saw when I took it apart and put it back together, it's really nice because it fits in, it can fit in some cook kits, which is nice when you put it in a smaller footprint, as well as it does a nice job of not staying rigid. And so sometimes I get really annoyed with those longer handled spoons or sporks because there's no real good place to put it. I am not going to make any comments about Matt Lauer. But yes, he'll have a lot of free time. A group hang from Hammock forums. And oh, Scott has I've got you a new trowel when we meet. That sounds a little scary, Scott. I'm not sure. If it's anything like that huge trowel that Tony made, I don't think I want anything to do with that right now. Talking about cool things on YouTube. If you have a chance, be sure to check out Bruce from Nature Calls. He did an awesome video where he made his own underquilt, and he kind of compressed it. I've been seeing him occasionally do some live streaming of making the underquilt, and it looked really cool, but it was nice to kind of condense it in one video. And the video is long, but if you want to learn or see how he kind of made his own baffle system in his underquilt, and he made like a monster. You're talking a sub-zero underquilt, which is really cool. It's a video you should check out. So Bruce from Nature Calls Backpacking. I don't have a link around, but most of you guys probably will know him. And if you want a good tutorial or just an overview of how to make your own underquilt, I thought that would be a great place to start and a good resource. So it's awesome. So Scott is saying small, and I sharpened the edges for you. Talking about that poop trowel still, or the camping trowel. Make your own spoon or use your carved chopsticks. Devin's trowel. All right. Another question I got was talking about, well, another comment was about the Z-Rest seat. And one thing I didn't mention was that Z-Rest seat from Thermarest is awesome for using as kind of a frame for day packs or a frameless pack like the Z-Pack Nero. And so it does a nice job kind of keeping some sweat off of your back, being a little more comfortable. So I actually do use my Thermarest Z seat as a backpack frame. It's pretty cool, and so that's one of the things I forgot to mention, but it's out there. Another comment was actually about, I know a lot of people have gotten the Sawyer Micro Squeeze. See you later, Jax. The Sawyer Micro Squeeze is, if you look at their new Select series of filters, if you notice that some of them have that Absolute Micron hollow fiber filter right on top, and it looks like a smaller version of the Sawyer Squeeze. And so they aren't selling it right now, but I saw a post on Reddit talking about someone reaching out to Sawyer, and they said that once they fulfill kind of their bulk orders for the Select series, they should be able to produce those micro squeezes by themselves, which is pretty awesome. Thanks, Kanzi. Which is pretty awesome to think about, because if I can get the flow rate of a squeeze with a smaller footprint and a lighter filter, even if it has, let's say it doesn't do 1 million gallons or whatever it is Sawyer says they can filter now, even if that, I would honestly go with that. And maybe I'm hoping that I think competition is good. That's what someone sent me in a message the other day about these different filters, and so I think that's really cool, an idea where they can. I'm hoping the flow rate can be comparable to the Katadyn B3, or maybe it kicked Sawyer into gear. They can't just kind of sit back in their laurels and just kind of coast on the squeeze and the mini filter. And you see some companies like Hydro Blue coming out and also doing filters, so it's awesome. I think competition is good, and so Jax is saying it's not the same, so the micro squeeze is different. Huh, that is interesting. See, I did not know that. So I'll be looking for it. Good to know. So thanks for correcting me, Jax. So I thought whatever is on the Select series of bottle is the same thing, but it's not. So if we can see that at some point, I think that'd be really cool. Let's see. My comment regarding GPS watches didn't show up on your feed. Looking for a GPS watch that has temperature and altitude. I typically don't use a GPS watch, Ducati, but one of the things I've seen are those Suunto watches, GPS watches, and those seem really handy, and people have a lot of good ideas on them. I think anyone in the chat who has used a GPS watch before, be sure to comment and let SD Ducati know what your thoughts are on that. I honestly don't have any specific ones that I would use. The Suunto is the one that I've seen, and I know Garmin has a bunch of others, and I tend to stick with more established brands whenever I purchase a big electronics device like that. 100,000 gallons from Fresh Lakes. Yep. Sawyer Mini, and I doubt a Sawyer would last 1 million gallons, which is probably true, Adam. If you looked at Alex from Outdoors 55, his Sawyer fail video, where he talked about how Sawyer kind of said it probably, I actually rewatched it recently, it probably is fine, probably is safe, and that's not good enough for me either, so I didn't like that. Let's see. Another question I seem to get fairly often is about what camera I use. Right now, of course, I'm using the webcam on my Mac. That's why it only goes to a 720p resolution. Hey, Steve. Wow. Thanks for a super chat, man. That's awesome. I really appreciate that. Thanks. I'm going to use that to probably maybe buy another Human Gear Duo. But yeah, thanks a lot, man. Thanks for supporting the channel. I appreciate it. So in terms of the camera that I use, what I tend to use right now is the iPhone 7. And so right now I'm using this webcam. Yeah, thanks, Steve. Give him a big clap. That was awesome. Camera I use is the iPhone 7. And believe it or not, it has awesome stabilization. It's one of those things where I haven't felt the need to do anything else besides the iPhone 7, because not only does it sync up with my Mac perfectly, and I can bring the footage across and pull it over to Final Cut Pro 10 and edit footage seamlessly without a problem. is that the quality is not something that I have an issue with at all. And with the new iPhones and the camera on them getting better and better, where you're talking about possibly filming in 4K, I just think that's awesome. And so right now I use the iPhone 7. I think it's a really great thing to use. Another comment I get, and this is more channel stuff than backpacking stuff, but it's the bookshelf behind me. Not this one right here. You guys see this sometimes in the live stream only, but there's actually a bookshelf over this direction that I usually will film in front of. And don't worry, it's not going to collapse on me. I always say my wife has a book problem, so some of the books on there are mine. They tend to be more the sci-fi fantasy stuff. And so those are my books, and most of the other stuff up there is actually her books that she reads. And so it's not in danger of collapsing. It just is dangerously overloaded. In terms of winter trips coming up, that was another question I got. And so the big plan right now is the Laurel Highlands hiking trail is right now tentatively planned or set in my mind for January, is the hope and the dream, where I'm still kind of finalizing gear and trying to figure out what will work. Trying to also wait for a really good snow in Pennsylvania to kind of get on that hiking trail. That's the goal right now. I'm not sure how much I can cover in the amount of time that we have available. I know people usually do it or they can do it 4 days. When there's no snow on the ground. So I'm curious to see what it's going to end up being when there is more snow on the ground. So that's actually the end of the established questions that I have. So if you have any questions, be sure to put them in the comment. And if you're watching this in the rewatch or the replay, thanks for watching, guys. So we're going to address these questions as they come on the live stream. So the question is, when I unpack my gear, rest, and repack, are you disciplined with always repacking the same way? Pretty darn close, Kanzi. And so that's one of those things where I, like you guys have seen how I pack my backpack. In general, it goes back in the same way. Small things, I don't think it really matters where they go, but big things, yes. Because, if you think about how you want most of the weight to be, tend to be in the center of your back, not at the very bottom, not at the very top to kind of skew your balance. As long as you keep generally the same exact places, that's what I tend to do. So yeah, I'm pretty disciplined about making sure it goes the same way. Even on the last day out, I know Subaru Josh always makes me laugh because he always crams everything in there, and then when he gets back home, then he's like, okay, I'll go through that later. I can't do that. It's my compulsive nature, or more obsessive nature, where I kind of want everything in its place so I know where everything is. So yeah, when I repack, I just go ahead and make sure everything is where it should be. See ya, Scott. Let's see, had a Garmin Phoenix. Oh yeah, see that's the one I actually was looking at as well when I was looking at more GPS type watches. Am I a section trail hiker? Oh, I guess so. I just tend to do, if you're talking to me, Kanzi, I tend to do more. My sweet spot is 3 day, 2 nights right now because I have young kids. 4 or 5 days would be kind of fun as well. But long section hikes I've never done. I've often thought, because I work in a school, so I get summers off, I've often thought about doing half of the AT in just the summer, or as much as I can do in a summer, and just kind of squeeze it in and then finish off the next summer that way. Because that's one of the ways, until my kids get old enough to hike a lot with me, that's probably what I'll end up doing, is becoming more section hiking. So guys, we're approaching 37 minutes right now, and it's a shorter live stream, but I'm feeling that post-Thanksgiving stupor, I think. I don't know what it is. I was really tired today. Luckily, I didn't run. And that's one of the things I try to do to stay in shape, or backpacking shape, as much as possible, is running, kind of doing some cardio, usually 3 times a week, and that seems to work well for me. But I'm going to sign off right now, unless you guys have any questions. Thanks for hanging out again. I think always think this is fun to hang out every 2 weeks. Well, every other week seems to work pretty well for me, and it seems to work pretty well for you guys. In the description, I believe I have my Twitter handle. Usually before I go live, I'll remind you if I'm doing a live stream or not, because I think it's kind of fun just to kind of keep a routine going with talking about gear or whatever comes up. So yeah, CrossFit, I thought about CrossFit before Trip, but I haven't been able to do that as yet. I just think running is so easy. Just you go out your front door and you just run. So maybe if I have a home gym, I think that would be one of those things that I would think about. So see you later, guys. Thanks for watching. It's always fun hanging out, and peace.